All right. Well, welcome everybody to our webinar today. It's exciting to be here. And we've got a few educators. We've got some amazing things to show you, and especially in regards to one of the hardest things for all educators, and that is creating content in an easy way that can then be dispersed to the students, either physically or virtually. And then having a PC-based builder to do those things, whether that's 360 video or animation. I don't want to take too much away from that. I'll do a quick brief introduction. I'm Jay Schnorr. I'm with VEDX Solutions. We're based in Bend, Oregon in the United States. And my colleague Deanna Bernal is here, and she is based out of Bogota, Colombia. So for the Americas, VEDX helps deploy virtual reality to schools. We help train, support the content and the equipment, and Facilitate is one of our really close partners. And I'll kind of turn it over to them to introduce themselves. So let's kick this off.
Thanks very much, Jay. And yeah, delighted to be here. We're here at Facilitate, probably on the other side of the world geographically, but obviously connected virtually on this, and really excited to be here. My name's Simon Yao. I'm head of partnerships at Facilitate, based in Adelaide, Australia. And with me on the call is Philip.
Hi, everyone. My name's Philip. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Facilitate. So I'm also in Australia, in Queensland. So pleasure to be here. And I think we were going to go through a couple of slides, Simon, I think.
Yeah, that sounds good. Jay, do you have any more scene setting before we jump in and get into that? Oh, you're on mute, Jay.
No, yeah. I think we ought to just jump right in. The idea here, educators are going to see an amazing tool to create content. So let's jump on in.
Excellent. Let me share my screen, and we'll get right into it.
Awesome.
Bear with me 1 second. And let me know when you can see what I can see. How's that looking?
Yep, that's come through. Lovely. Thank you. All right, let's go. So what is Facilitate? We'll keep this quite brief, and then we'll hand over to some other experts in the room. So it's a learning experience, VR learning experience creation suite, as it suggests there. We've got a range of different content, and I'll show you some examples of that as we talk further. It's quite market leading in a lot of ways. We've got LMS and SCORM integration, so for a lot of schools being able to capture that data and sending it through in an automated way. And we've got quite competitive pricing as well. We've got a 30% discount across our range of offerings for education and not-for-profit as well. So yeah, let's have a look at the next slide, please, Simon. So what can Facilitate help you with? Here's the big list. I won't read through all of it. I'll sort of let you have a quick look at them, and then I'll talk to a couple in just a little bit more detail. I think one of the main things to pick out is the top left one. It's easy to use. All right, so we're talking Articulate the eLearn creation program, so that level of complexity, or Canva, for example, if you're familiar with that, for creating design outputs. That's the level that you're talking about. So it's drag and drop style functionality. It's designed for people, not for tech people or anyone with a coding background, not at all. It's for ordinary lay people to use. It's quite flexible. So we have different modalities, as Jay was alluding to. We have the 360 media modality, where you have those wraparound images and videos. But you're also able to import three-dimensional models and add interactive elements to that. So you've got that CGI element, and then on top of that, we've got the virtual classrooms as well. So you can bring people together in a live, synchronous manner, and have that sort of engagement there as well. The data capture, as I mentioned, is there as well from the LMS. Yeah, it's probably about all to say on that one. If we have a look at the types of content, this is probably the most interesting for everyone. So as I was saying, the 360 modality are the top two there. So you can have straight images and videos. allowing you to obviously travel to different places. But you can also make these things that we call interactive 360. So you can add informational hotspots, interactive elements, and you can create a whole experience out of what is essentially a series of, maybe 3 or 4 videos or 3 or 4 images. And then the same with the 3D models as well. So you can just add a simple model and you can have a look at that as well, or you can add interactive elements to it as well. And then down the bottom, we've got the 2D materials as well. So we've got remote immersive teaching tools. So we've got the slide deck, videos, images, and audio files as well that you can use.
Okay, I'll
think
stop
that's
sharing
probably
there.
it for me,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. Yep. So I might leave it there. I don't want to steal too much thunder. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, we're there to basically take your ideas of lesson planning and educational tools and help create an immersive experience for students without the need to go to external agencies or technical people to create those. And so I guess that segues nicely into sort of a chat potentially with somebody who's utilized our technology and is putting this to use in education. And so with that, I might hand over back to you, Jay, to introduce Karina onto the call.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. And throughout our talk, Karina, I'd also like to just mention that you can have templates put in there for curriculum and content management for the teachers as you create those things inside of the library. And maybe by the end, hopefully we can take one look on the inside, on the back end of Facilitate in terms of the loader and how those items are compiled, and maybe a quick peek at inside of the system there. But before that, Karina here has joined us, and we had invited her on here because she has made use of this system, and I just wanted to kind of go over a few things with you, Karina, and have you introduce yourself to everybody. So go ahead and take it away in terms of just the introduction and a little bit about how you use Facilitate.
Thank you. Hi. So yes, Karina, and I'm also in Australia. Typically, I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, but I'm actually currently in Sydney just for funsies. So we're representing all of Australia at the moment, I think. I am actually coming into this as a science communicator. And so I could see value in the use of VR to connect learners, teachers, secondary sector with a really amazing science and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths related experiences. But in order for me to do that, I needed some sort of a conduit, a platform, a means of getting these out to that space and to that audience. And so I partnered up with Facilitate about 2 years ago now and started to co-opt their platform to do that with. And in doing so, I've used it not only as a way of disseminating content out to that audience, but also I've utilized a lot of their content creation features to create my own content, some of those sort of lesson plans and structures and things that you've referenced. So that's a quick summary of my interaction.
Yeah. So what got you interested in immersive education? I mean, why? Like, there's going to be a lot of educators that see this, or see similar things, and they're thinking about doing immersive education. But talk a little bit about that and why you're interested and what got you really interested in pursuing this.
Well, so as I said, I come at it through a science lens, but it was the recognition that VR and immersive technology several years back was starting to gain this potential for education as a novelty, and certainly as something that we were seeing that would really excite people, students, teachers, general public audiences who would engage with it. But also, I think taking a level deeper for me as someone in the sciences, it was the recognition that you could really use it and put it to good value to immerse people in worlds that maybe they otherwise couldn't access, to get across very otherwise quite intangible concepts in a really, really engaging way. And so I've been in this space for about 8 years now. And done a lot of work in more recent years with schools, and we've seen not just the novelty and engagement, but also some of those educational value points, the enhancements in learning and understanding by using this as a medium. So that really excited me, and that's what's kind of kept me in this space, using VR just as a mechanism for enhancing science communication and science and education. And for me, I started with something called the virtual plant cell, which was literally taking people inside of the world of the cell of a plant. And we saw some really amazing outcomes with that. And I've just sort of evolved it from there. And the Facilitate platforms really helped me to expand the content suite that I could offer out. So we've done some cool stuff with radio astronomy and space as well more recently, and some other science areas.
And, in some of this content that you've created, how do other educators access that in your space in Facilitate?
Okay, so my product, my realm is called STEMXR, and that is my own offering. And so in order for me to be able to create and engage a secondary school audience with that content, I needed a platform, a mechanism to get that out to them. So I'm engaging with Facilitate, I guess, on two levels. One was by using that platform as a means of access point of distribution and connection, and using that as actually the back end through partnership for my product. And on a second layer, the fact that they've got those amazing content creation tools inside of that platform. I've used them for my own content creation means, but also it's been great because when we've gone out into schools and been able to offer this, a lot of schools and secondary teachers, of course, are starting to show their own interest in content creation. And so being able to offer that allowed them to also engage with some of Facilitate's features for themselves. But my platform, my product is called STEMXR, and so I'm working on getting that out to secondary schools. And for the time being, we're focused on an Australian market, but it is there. I know that we've got US educators on this call, but I guess science we generally find is pretty universal. And I've certainly seen with the virtual plant cell, with the earlier stuff I did, that we've had uptake all around the world, including in the US.
So a science teacher that's signs up with Facilitate could potentially sign up for your content in their space, or would they sign up underneath your space?
At this stage, the way that I've been working, and I've only gotten through a pilot, has been to go out and present the product as STEMXR with the Facilitate backend. Still working with these guys, so I imagine in time we'll get to a point where we're kind of going both ways, where we can present both products and schools and teachers have the opportunity to engage with it through whatever path took them to this point. It's just generally that idea of how can we catalyze the increased use of VR effectively in a schooling context.
Absolutely. And a lot of educators will ask, when we're meeting with them as VEDX, we try to relate to them that this is a long-term strategy. And a lot of educators are asked, well, do you think that immersive education and virtual reality is going to be a permanent fixture of education? I mean, I think I know your answer, but maybe expand on a little bit on how you might answer that to an educator.
Yeah, if I want to go deeper, okay, quick answer, yes, but only if it's catalyzed in the right way, and that takes people like ourselves and addressing, I guess, in a very holistic way, all the elements of it, recognizing that school and education and classroom end use of this does have its challenges. And so if we can look at addressing content creation, platforms, plug and play curriculum aligned quality content, some of the things that VEDX is doing in informing and supporting schools in their implementation and structures, if we can look at all of that, then yeah, I think there's definitely a world in which VR and immersive technology becomes a really solid part of education, but it has to be done in a realistic way with a lot of that sort of holistic approach being considered. And then when we say VR and immersive tech, I think it's recognizing that this technology will continue to evolve. So what it looks like now and how it embeds, it's definitely going to evolve and change over time. But I think that idea of immersive learning, we're definitely seeing the value of that. And I imagine there's secondary teachers sitting in here now who've also had dabbled in this and seen how it can have like some really amazing impacts in a classroom setting with their learners. So yeah, no doubt that it'll continue to have that impact and that use.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you touched on something there in terms of immersive and VR, and being a content creator like Facilitate, I think it's really important to be able to have that cross-pollination of content libraries that you can access. And going forward, as this grows in the world, a lot of educators don't have time to create their own content. They want to grab a lesson plan, some objects, the video, and in it goes, right? And so you have a nice kind of plug and play space, but also a space where you can create your own content on the way. How have your teachers enjoyed it when you've trained them in the space? How have their learners been using it? What's some of the feedback you've gotten from everybody?
Yeah, layers, and it's all of those things that you've
Layers.
touched
Yep.
on. Yeah, there's layers. So I've stepped out into space to try and solve one of the barriers, being the absence of curriculum mapped content that is immediately plug and playable, or that does address the curriculum so that teachers don't have to spend that time squirreling around trying to find things and figure out how to map and use it. But in doing that, recognize that there is a lot of inquiry and questions from teachers around, well, how do we maybe do some content creation of our own, or how do we have that flexibility? And so that's where something like Facilitate proved infinitely valuable as a partner to work with, because we were able to present something to them that had that extra level of features and opportunity for them. And so the feedback that we've got through the pilot was very much recognition of content we love, the sort of real world exemplification of STEM and the plug and playability against the curriculum they love. But we also got a lot of feedback saying they loved that they also had that flexibility in the system to play with the content, to play with the lesson structures and build out. And then the level below that, so my audience really is the teachers, and I rely then on enabling the teachers with this capability, this skill and this toolkit to then engage their learners. And then the feedback through them on how their learners is engaged has been really positive as well. So we've seen some really good feedback about that, and that it kind of, I guess, shifted engagement with some of the subject matter around the sciences that could often be quite dry or challenging for a teacher to teach with any sort of relevance. And then the virtual planter, which is what I referenced as my prior project, which has rolled into this. As I said, we actually did some work with that in the past, where we actually did some studies around the educational efficacy, and we were actually seeing some really dramatic shifts in the ways that students conceptualized cells just by having learned about them in an immersive way. They modeled them up in three-dimensionality once they'd gone through the VR in a way that they hadn't when they just learned it through a textbook or through the teacher's chalk and talk lessons. So we've seen that the educational outcomes, those tick boxes, as well as a result of this immersion. So yeah, definitely seen the value, but as I said, there's layers to where the value lies. It's the content creation, is it the immersion, is it the plug and playability, is it the curriculums being addressed and expanded on? And it's got potential to address all of those things if done right and if done holistically. Yeah,
absolutely. Simon and Philip, would you be able to pull up a screen share and show just a little bit of the behind the curtain here for an educator? And I don't know if you have Karina's access to the classes she was talking about, but if not, just the normal demo.
Yeah, sure. No, I don't have access to any of Karina's material, but I can show you the editor, I guess, the how it would work from a creator point of view. So let me just pull that up for you. Just let me know when that's coming through.
Yep, we're good.
Yep, cool. So look, here's the dashboard, just to give you a real sense of the simplicity here. You've got your library where you house all your content, your sort of your videos, your questions, your slide decks, all that material that we talked about. Experiences where you pull them all together and create an experience, as it suggests. You sort of set the order and the flavor. And then schedule is how you can sort of disseminate it, with your SCORM, or you can use our scheduling functionality as well, which we have. Etc. I'll just take a little bit of a dive into experiences and just show you that a little bit.
Perfect.
So here are just some ones that I've created. So basically, you just go create new experience. So there's two main flavors: the standard and the sequence. Essentially, this is synchronous and asynchronous, if you like. The synchronous, you just put all the information in, and the facilitator will go in, obviously, in real time with the students, and they then lead the session. They would pick the content themselves. But in the sequence, you obviously have to provide a little bit more guidance to the learner. So we'll do one of these and just give it a name, give it a description, those sorts of things. You have some sharing options as well. So if you're sharing with others. So here's our library on the right, just condensed. So I can just pick from this. So let me just pick a slide deck here. I might actually pick a 2D video as well, for example, and then the immersive stuff. So we might have a 360 interactive. So these are the ones with the with the hotspots and the waypoints, and some questions. So let's add a couple of questions here. So you can see this has been building up here on the left here, and this is the order that the content is in. So I can just reorder this quite simply. But what I can also do is embed content within one another. So we've got the slide deck here of 8 slides. And let's say I want this question here to appear at slide 5. So I just click embed, and I can go embed here, and I can say, yep, slide 5, insert. And now you can see here, you've got what slides 1 to 5, and then the question gets asked, and then the rest of the slides, and so forth. And same with this, with this video here, this 360 virtual tour, I can embed that within the slide deck as well. I could say put that after slide 3. And so now you've got, slides 1 to 3, then they go off into a 360 fully immersive experience, come back into the virtual classroom, look at slides 4 to 5, get asked this question, and so forth. And you can also put questions within the 360 content as well.
And
so that's fairly, yeah.
And just for the educators watching, I know the answer to this, but the ability then to have these things, but plus interactivity with some objects, yeah?
Yeah. So it doesn't quite come through, but if this thing here is called virtual tour plan, this is an interactive 360. So this in itself is almost a standalone experience. And what it is you go out of the virtual classroom and you're surrounded by the video or the image that the experience takes place in. And you can then use the controllers or the mouse, depending on which application you're using. And you can click on any number of hotspots. And these can be video hotspots that'll pop up a little 2D video within the 360 environment. It can be text, or it can be a question. So it'll ask them a question within that piece of content. And there's also waypoints, so you can go from one scene to another. And you can do more advanced features, like you can have invisible hotspots, and you can just simply have a box telling the student, look around you, and pick all the, these things in the room, or the such and such, and they have to click, and they won't get any confirmation until they click on the right object. So you can make it as challenging as you want. And that's all contained within this little pink box here that's embedded within a broader experience here, if that makes sense. So that interactivity is certainly there, yeah.
And so that's something that an educator would bring in a 360 video, just a normal 360 MP4, and then they can start putting their own hotspots inside of there to interact with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I can very quickly, just tell me when we're out of time, by all means, but I can very quickly show you how that
I think this is really important. I mean, this is really the meat of why somebody would want to do this, to really develop a lesson, right?
Okay, no, in that sense, I might just take a little bit to show you that then. So this would be the 360 one I was talking about, for example. So you would just go create new scene. You would go to that library where you've uploaded your image, and the images you can take, look, a consumer grade camera, 360 camera. I mean, US, you're probably looking around 400 or 500, somewhere in there. That will get you a camera that will take good enough images for for something like what we're doing here. I'll just pull one up here. So I've just added this scene. Let me add another one so we can connect to. And I'm just picking from these images that I've already got. So now I'm going to enter into this scene. And now here we are. We're in, this is hospital. This is like a neonatal ICU. And then I can add these hotspots that I was talking about. So, this machine down here might be of importance. I can pick the type. I could make this one a video one, for example, and I pick the video. I'm going to add a little video there. So that's now going to play a video. This is totally unrelated, of course, but it would do that. And it's very simple. You can change the size of the video here. You just scaling it like that. You can put a little label underneath it like that. And then, over here, let's add another hotspot. Let's make this one, say, a waypoint to leave. We'll put it by the door. You just go to type, select waypoint, destination. Where's the destination of this waypoint? Scene 2.
Which is the other scene you put in. The other scene,
exactly, yep. And you can have it. You should probably label them up here. You can label them. It's a little bit hard otherwise, scene 1 and 2. But yeah, so you can say, so go back might be the label here. And then when they click on that, it takes them to scene 2. We can do a real quick preview. Hang on. I've got them in the right. Oh, you can reorder them here as well, scenes. But let me just go back into that.
And these are scenes, but while you're doing this, the waypoint can also go off to a video that plays.
Yeah. So you can, well, it wouldn't be a waypoint. We call it video hotspot. But yeah, that's right. It would click, and it would essentially be a video. So I've just reversed that around. But for the illustration, I can just click on this. Where's the waypoint we had? Yeah, here it is. Just rejig this destination. I think I had this around the wrong way. Which way have I got my scenes?
That's okay.
Scene 2. Yeah, we'll just jump into preview and we should be able to have a quick look at that. Yeah, so if I click on that, well, it's very small, but yeah, that'll play that video that we had, for example. And that can show a more in-depth piece of information about something. And if I click on this one, then that'll take us to this other scene. I've got them around the wrong way now, but yeah, so you get the idea, and it's fairly straightforward. The last thing to point out might be the publish functionality we've now got. So if I click on publish here, I can just save it and put it as part of a broader experience, the way I mentioned before. But I can also publish it as just a shareable link here, and you can just copy this and you can paste it into a browser. And anyone can look at that experience on a browser. They don't need a headset and they don't need to install the local application. So that's an option there as well. So yeah.
Now that's 360 video. And how about just a little bit of the 3D interaction with objects?
Yep, sure. Yep. Let's jump into that one. So we'll go create new on this one. This one's a little bit more in depth, but it's the same basic principle. So these are all WebGL. This is all editor browser-based editing. So you can just do it in a browser. Again, you can give the experience a name. You can tag everything, descriptions, those sorts of things. You can upload. This is where you upload a model, and the models need to be in FBX or OBJ. They're fairly common 3D model formats. There are some requirements, but it's fairly straightforward. You can select the scene. You've got some different scenes that it takes place in. I don't actually have a model, so I won't upload one, but yeah, please.
Real quick question.
Yep.
We had talked a while back about possibly integrating into some other Sketchfab or other 3D libraries. Can you talk a little bit about that for the educators?
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, where are we at with that? I believe we have some partners on that front. Have we got, or is that the 360 front?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the ability to take any 3D model. So we have model libraries that we can draw from. Yeah, obviously licensing applies to most models, but yeah, we've got a partner who has a big library of 3D models that people can take from and utilize. There's also a bunch of models generally available for free of charge or at very low costs on various sites that can be imported in the way that Philip showed here. So essentially any 3D model that exists out there can be brought into this platform and dissected in this way. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, so this one's a little bit more in depth, but you have the appearance of the model. So this one's got a lot of components. This is a water pump with 32 different components. Let me zoom out. Yeah, so there's the model there on the table, and you can customize the look of different elements of it. But I'll probably go to the more interesting bit. This is the adding the action. So essentially, what you can do is you can add different types of actions. So there are free move action where the person can grab the component of the model, so a part of the model, and just move it around, and you can apply gravity so that it falls. There's the so-called snap to feature where the person can grab the component and move it to another place, but unless they get it in the right place, it sort of won't stick in that, won't snap in that sense. So this is more for an assembly disassembly use case, right? So you have the machines apart and the students have to put it back together or something like that. And the last one we have is the button. So this is sort of the idea of pressing a button, and then that'll have some sort of consequence. And we're building out more and more ways to interact with the model as we speak. But essentially, there's two main flavors to it. You can make it an experience as in free form, so the person can just the learner can just pull the model apart in any way they want, and they can just explore it. Or you can have a guided one where you have some guidance and a sequence of steps with a piece of guidance. So if you look at this one here, this is step 1, for example, and we can see here this grey piece here at the front. and it's a snap to movement here that's been applied, and there's some text here. So you can see here it says move the front component to the correct spot. So you can write that. So you can essentially give the learner the guidance. So I can change that and say, to whatever such and such for each step, and then I can record the beginning and the end position of the snap to. And so forth, and then I can add another step, and essentially the learner has to move through them in sequential order, so that they reassemble or disassemble the model or whatever the use case is, etc. So that's, and we can maybe jump in quickly into preview. It's probably the best way to look at this. So that's probably it in a nutshell.
And this is what you just had.
That's right. And this is now what the learner would see, right? So here are my steps. So if I click on view steps, it says here, step 1, move the front component to this spot. Well, that's a bit uninformative what I've done there, but anyway, I think that's, so that's this front bit. Well, sorry, my panning's a bit hard on the mouse. Step 2, identify and grab the frontal component of the pump. I think that's, actually not sure. Yeah, that's that one there. I think, where did that go? Explore the central structure. That's probably this one. I'm not actually sure. So when you're on desktop, you're clicking with the mouse, but I think where the real value with these ones comes is when you're in VR, because you have the controllers, right? So you're bringing in that motor skills element, I guess.
But I also think it's really important to point out that you can do this with WebXR here too, right? Like it's accessible, and I think a lot of educators are when they bring in something or they're looking at their holistic view, what's the access for people that don't want to put on a headset, that can't put on a headset, or
of course
they only have 2 headsets at the school, and how does everybody access the immersive education? And I think it's really important for educators to ask that for everybody that's watching, because in the long run, you can still build this stuff or get help building the stuff, or just continue to grow out your library of lessons, even if you don't have all the equipment up front. Got 2 headsets, maybe next year you want to get 2 more, 2 after that, right? So but absolutely, in the back end, this space can grow. Karina, I wanted to give you a chance to comment here on any of the stuff that we had just looked at in terms of what you've done and how you have found it easy, difficult. Any comments on that?
Also just going to reflect on the comment you just made about definitely the flexibility in platform engagement. Web browser, desktop, headsets has made an infinite difference when I've been able to talk to teachers and offer that. So that's definitely a great consideration with the Facilitate platform. And ease of use. Look, I've obviously come into this as someone who already had a bit of development kind of background and experience, but to be able to step into this platform and immediately engage and recreate all of my content using the features in this in a way that was really accessible. It was very simple to use, and I have used all the different levels. I've done the interactive 360 type of scenarios with not just a static 360-degree image background, but also with animated video backgrounds as well. So there is a degree of almost kind of movement and interaction, or fluidity in the space around the points where people can interact within an experience. And I've also had a bit of a play with the micro simulations using some 3D models as well. It was very, very simple to use. And the team were really excellent, because I've worked with them and sort of emphasize as well, I guess, coming at it from that education perspective, that these are the sorts of features that might also have use for a teacher and education perspective, and the team were really flexible in looking at some of those features and introducing new things in there. So I think with time, their product has certainly evolved increasingly more so towards something that a teacher could very readily access and use to build out really wonderful pieces.
Well, I think as educators watching this, you also can see that you have lots of support. At VEDX, we have a teacher network of people that are growing every day, educators, and talking and using the group to chat about good ideas. When you join up with Facilitate, we're all here to help support that building and getting you going. On that note, anybody looking at this to see how we get started, Philip or Simon, you want to tell us a little bit about the starter pack that's kind of exciting?
Sure can. Yeah, thanks, Jay. And I think, yeah, you and Karina have touched on what probably the most important thing there, that, you know, the feedback that we get is that people feel like they really want to do this. They have good intentions and they have great ideas about what they would create, but they need a bit of help in getting something off the ground and getting started. And I guess that's where our starter pack is really sort of coming to the fore. Let me know if you can see that on the screen now. Perfect. So essentially, this is really addressed to help teachers and educators get over that first hurdle, which is, how can I understand that I've got, you know, a busy timetable, busy workload, but I really want to get that first project off the ground, but I need a bit of help, and I need something tangible that I can take away at the end of it to sort of prove out that it's going to work, that the engagement is right, that the process was as easy as was described and as easy as it looked when Philip was running through. And so this starter pack was built to sort of take educators on a bit of a training program, and that sounds a little bit more onerous than it actually is. It's essentially a guided period of time where you get upskilled, and the team within an education institution gets upskilled to create the business case. And I know business case is probably the wrong word in an education setting, but what that means is sort of internally sort of saying, well, here's what we're going to achieve with this first cab off the rank piece of immersive content. And as Karina described, there's layers of complexity with bringing in an immersive learning thing, program to a school. And so what we're trying to do is say, hey, let's start small and let's build our first thing together. And Facilitate can help an educator, from an educator with zero experience to an educator with some prior experience. We can help them on a program to say, at the end of that time, they'll have created a piece of content. They'll have the ability to scale that and create multiple other pieces of content themselves, or they can educate the rest of their team or the rest of the institution as to say, hey, look, I've just created this. It took me, a couple of hours over an 8-week period, but now I'm upskilled and we can roll this out across different faculties, different parts of the school, different parts of the school district, etc. And so what we've tried to do here is cover both the hardware, software, and training components of everything that would be needed to get that project off the ground. And so our training starter package basically says, look, let's start realistic and start, with a tangible outcome. So it's, 2 people in a school who we take through a program and get them up to speed on how to create, up to 50 students going through that program. And that first piece of content, whether it's a piece of 360 or an immersive micro simulation model, will provide the 2 headsets. So you've got small investment, but 2 of the actual pieces of hardware that make that immersive content really come to life, and 1 360-degree camera that allows you to take those images or videos that will really bring it to be contextualized to what you want to teach and what you want to show. And at the end of it, we give, at the end of that program, we give a certification to that individual or the institution to say, you're now capable of creating content. You're able to scale this now. And as I said, roll this out more in the same faculty, take it to other faculties, roll it out to the whole school and beyond. And we're having a lot of take up from this because it gets over that barrier that we totally understand that educators have always said to us, I really want to do this. I'm a big fan of immersive content. I can see the value it would have for my students, my school, but I just need to know how do I get this off the ground? And there are, a lot of noise out there in the VR world about things you can do, and they range from very expensive custom built projects to off the shelf content, which, as Karina talked about earlier, we hope in the future will become omnipresent and available for all teachers just to grab. But the reality is, at the moment, there is not content for every learning need. There's not content for every school situation, and we're really trying to help schools avoid the fact that they have to say, I really want to do this, but I'm going to have to wait because it's just not ready and right for me now. And so this is what we're offering, and the real key to it, as Karina said, is that support that will really hold the school or the educator's hand through that process to make sure they're completely comfortable, completely ready to deploy this content to their students and have a meaningful experience. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to help them achieve.
Excellent. And that 360 camera comes with a tripod too, right?
That's it.
It
With
does,
all the
yep.
it does comes in a box with a tripod with all of the elements that you might need to get going. And as Philip said, for Luddites like myself, it's the technology is actually relatively simple once you get to grips with it. And again, getting over that barrier of that first time you try something like this, that's the key to sort of saying, well, it is possible, and it is actually not that time intensive once you get down to it. If like many teachers are familiar with creating their own lesson plans and creating their own content in other ways, this should not and will not be any more intrusive to their time than those traditional methods.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for all of that. Karina, as far as some of the teachers or educators watching this today, if they're interested in the science content and they reach out, we'll put them in direct contact with you through this. We have a form here. If anybody watching this, you just gotta break out your phone and take a QR of that there, and fill out the information, and we'll help you out. Now, some of that starter pack and all of that here in the US, of course, you'll have options for in-person deployment or remote deployment, and then anybody in the world has the support, virtual support, if you get facilitate through this webinar with VEDX. So guys, thank you so much for coming on today. Karina, thank you for all the insights.